What's good, everybody? Just a quick little mini video for today. We all know what went down on October 28th. Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. The fight just wrapped or just finished um, 10 minutes ago. And, well, of course, being an MMA fan, let's give my thoughts. So, first and foremost, I mean, we all know what happened. Tyson Fury won by split decision, 95-94 as well as 96-93. So, full disclosure, I scored that fight 95-94 to Tyson Fury. I think that Tyson Fury won this fight, but also let me echo what everybody else has been saying. I mean, one, that fight was way closer than it should have been. You know, the so-called boxer fighting an MMA fighter in a boxing match. But also, you could argue that Ngannou took that fight. To be honest, he landed better. I wouldn't say better because not more often, but he definitely landed the stronger shots. When you look at both fighters at the end, Fury definitely looks a little bit more shell-shocked. But with that said, I did score it in favor of Tyson Fury. But I mean, if you go online and you see all the discussion right now, it's easy to tell that Ngannou was the person who won tonight. You know, whether or not you thought he won on the scorecards or, the other way you can look at it is it's the morale. Like Ngannou won. You know what I mean? He, in his boxing debut against, one of who is considered, one of the best boxers in the world right now, one of the best heavyweights of his generation, one of the best pound for pound boxers, right? To have that close of a fight and, honestly have an argument to winning that fight in your boxing debut is nothing short of impressive. You know what I mean? Fury was talking about how he had a long layoff. Ngannou had even longer layoff, as well as coming off of a surgery and such like that. So, I mean, it's a great performance from Ngannou. Of course, he's not perfect. He was definitely not as fresh by the end of the fight, and the technique did show. Like on my scorecards, Fury was able to pull ahead because the technique and the experience just trumped him. But once again, like that fight was way closer than it should have been. Like we've seen it before. It's like, of course, I don't think that Nate Diaz is going to beat Jake Paul. Of course, I was not surprised that Anderson Silva lost to Jake Paul because it's a boxing fight. If you're fighting I'm not going to put my money on MMA fighters beating boxers in boxing matches, but still, once again, that fight just being as close as it was, is a victory for Ngannou. And of course, he knocked down Fury. All right. Fury, I think, once again, Fury took the fight my scorecards, but you cannot take that away from Ngannou that he was able to knock down Fury and Fury could have knocked down Ngannou, right? That moment is definitely going to live on for a long time. And, Fury might have won tonight, but as far as a fight that's billed as, the battle of the baddest, I mean, in terms of who got the most stock, it is Francis Ngannou. He got the most stock. You know what I mean? So it just an incredible performance from Ngannou. Once again, could have been better and maybe should have gone his way for some people. I disagree, but it's also not incorrect. You know what I mean? Because it was a close fight. I could see an argument for Ngannou winning. But man, what I mean, definitely the biggest surprise, probably one of the best boxing performances in a crossover boxing match. Can we agree with that? I mean, we think about, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva. Yeah, that was the best performance that we've seen. And not to mention at the highest level. You know what I mean? Like, sure, Nate Diaz, Tyron Woodley got knocked out by Jake Paul of all people. But once again, Francis Ngannou fought, the lineal boxing heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? So to have a close fight with him is just, wow, that's crazy. So I mean, it's so much for fumbling the bag. You know what I mean? I found it a little weird when people kind of, I wouldn't say turned on Ngannou, but people thought that he fumbled the bag when, he left the UFC, turned down the contracts. For me, it's a discussion for another day, but I was behind Ngannou because at the end of the day, it's the fighters, representation isn't the word, control, their power. You know what I mean? You got to give power to the fighters, give them, not initiative, not urgency, agency, give them the agency to choose. So, I was happy with Ngannou's decision and happy that he got the fight and to go do what he did tonight. I mean, that's so much for fumbling the bag. You know what I mean? He lost, but I mean, with that performance, some people are like, oh, is Ngannou really good? Is Fury not that good? You know what I mean? Obviously it's looking to be the worthwhile decision. As far as the fight itself, pretty decent fight. The thing that I noticed the most is that the hand fighting was the big factor. You know, whoever established the jab, whoever kind of won the lead hand battle was the one who took the rounds. And as we saw, Fury was definitely more successful with that jab. I think the thing that surprised Fury in this matchup and actually put it in Ngannou's favor is definitely the size. Um, for boxing fans, I'm not a big boxing fan. I'm a very, very casual boxing fan. So you can correct me or critique me on my thoughts on this. But from what I've gathered, Tyson Fury's strategy for a lot of his fights is the clinch and how he's just so big, not just so tall, but so big. And he weighs down his opponents, tires them out in the clinch, right? You know, wears them down. That doesn't work on Ngannou, not only because Ngannou is just such a huge specimen, but also with MMA, you know, he's used to that type of clinch battle. You know what I mean? In fact, Fury was probably more willing to kind of hold and kind of grab onto Fury and kind of get in that clinch battle for longer because that's just how MMA is. You know, you think of all that cage control, right, where fighters are kind of pressing against the cage and trying to reverse position, and of course takedowns. You know what I mean? Ngannou has an established wrestling background, so Fury couldn't really weigh down on Ngannou because Ngannou is used to that type of pressure. He's able to negate that pressure, whether or not it's in the clinch, you know what I mean? When they get tied up, that's something that he's used to. So I found that was actually pretty beneficial for Ngannou. And you definitely noticed from Fury that that game plan wasn't going to be as successful. Fury was definitely the faster fighter, though. Definitely the fresher one. The experience showed, popping that jab, which I thought won him the fight, popping the jab, evading, definitely showed better there. And Ngannou did have his kind of mouth open past, the halfway point of the fight. But what you did notice is that when taking shots, it was also obvious who was losing more energy when taking shots. It was evident that Fury was definitely getting more and more tired the more that Ngannou was able to unload on him. You know what I mean? Like he would take some shots, you know what I mean? Maybe not completely directly. He would block them, keep his guard up, but then, he would just kind of like, like wander into the clinch because he's just so tired. And so, that's just once again giving more credence to just the specimen that Francis Ngannou is and how that, played a large part into deciding this fight, or at least, affecting this fight. So, I mean, overall, decent performance in Ngannou. He said it himself, but he does have some things to work on as a boxer. But, and he did have his physicality kind of really helping him in that fight. But, it was his boxing debut. He definitely showed some inexperience, didn't have as much output as he normally does. But something I was thinking to myself during my reaction is while watching the fights that, the Ngannou of like 2016, 2017, 2018 wouldn't have won that fight. You know what I mean? It was that mythical, patient Francis Ngannou that, became the world ender that he did, that, knocked out Stipe Miocic. It was that patient Ngannou that got him a lot of success, and that did keep him in this fight. That did end up working with him very well. Didn't fight with as much urgency in the final rounds, which I think that's what it came to. Those last two rounds, I think I nearly had it a draw at the end of the eighth. So, because he didn't fight with that urgency in those last two, in the main event rounds, I think that did lose the fight for him. As far as the breakdown, that's pretty much all I have. Fury overall won the lead hand battle, won the jab battle, but gotta say it once more. That fight was a lot closer than it should have been. That was a lot closer than people expected. Others are even saying that Ngannou should have won that fight. And so, what does this say? You know what I mean? Is Ngannou just a really great fighter that really stepped up and proved something today? Is Fury maybe not as good as some people think? You know what I mean? He hasn't really earned much stock. And don't hate on me. Don't hate on me. I respect boxing. I'm not saying that Fury's overrated. I'm trying to, ask, what does this say for Tyson Fury? You could say he still beat Ngannou. He still beat him, right? Ngannou, still couldn't beat the boxer in boxing. That's how you have it at the end of the day, and that's totally fair. Still won, but then, I think it does obviously speak more for what Ngannou was able to accomplish tonight, or today rather, win or lose. I'm in America, so daytime for me. And so as far as where do we go from here? I mean, Francis Ngannou, man, he's gonna. I reckon he's gonna find the PFL next. I think that's what's lined up. That should be very interesting. I'm curious to see, how Ngannou's able to transition back into MMA. I mean, we saw it happen in the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. Mayweather did have success. He lost the fight, got finished, and then came back. By the time he came back to the UFC, the game kind of caught up to him. He kind of needed to catch up, needed to readjust again, incorporate kicking back to his style. So with that all said and done, I'm very curious to see how he's going to perform in his next fight. I definitely want to keep eyes open for that. So yeah, what did you think of the fight? How did you score it? It was a pretty close fight. I could definitely agree with that. How did you score it? What do you think about Ngannou? How was that for fumbling the bag? Any boxing fans out there? What does that say about Tyson Fury? You know what I mean? How would you feel a fight against Usyk would go? I mean, once again, I'm a very casual boxing fan, but before I would think, okay, I think Usyk beats Fury, and then earlier this year when Usyk had his fight, that controversial fight where he definitely showed some weaknesses in his body, I'm like, okay, maybe Fury beats Usyk, and then now after this fight, who knows? Who knows? Let me know down below. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Very interesting day for combat sports, and for the MMA fans, I think we're taking this as a win. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you later.